Hey, what's up there, Vermont? And what is up, America? All right, so listen up. We have some very important public hearings coming up. The one I'm showing you right now is April 17th. It's a Wednesday. I'm going to zoom right in there for you. Okay? April 17th, 2019, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., House Chamber, Senate House, Montpelier, Vermont. Public hearing on Proposal 5. Proposed amendment to the Constitution of the State of Vermont regarding personal reproductive liberty. In short, that's the H-57 abortion rights bill, where women can tell you it's their body. You have no input as a man. Listen, it's pretty interesting. This Vermont legislative cycle is kind of, if you really think about it for a moment, I just want to talk about this because I will be going to the April 17th public hearing. Have a daughter. Vermont considers men, we shouldn't have any influence whatsoever in guiding our daughters to make the right decision. One, in the choice of men that they may date, they may end up marrying. Let's face it, when you're a drug-infested, alcoholic state, any parent would worry about either their sons or a daughter going out to several of the high school parties throughout the state of Vermont on several campuses, whether they're smoking up pot right on campus or with all of the nasty heroin, methamphetamines, the drug addictions, the numbers of everything out there is scary enough for any parent. I mean, let's face it. I feel that it's probably one of the laziest moments in Vermont history. We have a lopsided supermajority led by Mitzi Johnson and several of her female minions that it's their way or the highway. Men should have no voice whatsoever in the reproductive liberties. I like the way they're rewording this. That a father should have no guidance helping his daughter make the right choice. I mean, let's face it. Their generation got stinking drunk. They got to run bare naked through many communes throughout the state of Vermont, experimenting with, drugs they knew nothing about. And now we have a drug-infested state of Vermont. I mean, there's nothing but alcoholics. And listen, I apologize if anybody's an alcoholic trying to recover. I'm just kind of going off on a little rant, kind of just venting. Because after serving this country in 2 branches of the military, traveling across country several times, California is no model to follow. I'm going to tell you that right now. You want to talk about one of the worst states for drugs, for human trafficking, for, just scary moments for any parent out there that sends their kids out to those colleges. When you've got Nancy Pelosi, you've got Senator Feinstein, you've got several of these Democrats that will not get anything done. You want to talk about California is no model to follow in certain categories, in my view, especially when it comes to giving anybody advice about parenting. It's a drug-infested state as well, one of the largest homeless populations, and I don't know whether you're it's not a state that you want to get picked up in, period, with any kind of alcohol-related anything. It was a $1,000 fine back in our heyday. And I did enough babysitting, bringing people home so that they, could get home after hard, long nights out, let's just say. It was not that much fun. I mean, I had some good nights out, you know, dancing and enjoying times with friends. I'd rather do that than just power drink until you puke. That's just not that fun. And then on top of the long range of drugs out in California and some of the areas you do not want to get, well, I don't know. I don't even want to share some of the stories out there. It can get really scary. That being said, there's a public hearing April 17th, 2019, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., the House Chamber, State House, Montpelier, Vermont, on the abortion bills, or the way they like to word it, their personal reproductive liberties. So let's face it, if you're a parent, if you're a father of a daughter, you have no voice. They don't want you guiding her in the right way on how to pick the right guy, let alone not get drugged, raped, or many other horrible things that go on out in the streets all across the state of Vermont, these days anyway. Or trying to guide your sons on being gentlemen and how to conduct themselves as gentlemen and not take advantage of women that are in a alcoholic state of mind or a drug-induced state of mind. But let's face it, they'd rather legalize pot and not every other drug. I mean, my God, the long list of stuff that's out there now is just completely scary. And but that's a very important public hearing. Proposal 5, okay? After hearing a vast majority of Vermonters wanting safeties, Mitzi Johnson and her female minions are just giving a nose up. It's none of anybody else's business. You have no say whatsoever about your children or trying to guide them in the right direction. God forbid you want safeties. Because, let's face it, it's kind of an interesting socialist state Vermont is in. They want to kill babies or harvest them, for profit before they're able to be little mini cute humans. I mean, yeah, I must admit, some, they go through some pretty difficult birth stuff. But listen, when they're all cleaned up, they're all still pretty cute, and they smell pretty good. At least my 3 babies were all pretty cute. Slightly different weights, lengths. All 3 of them smelled pretty good after they got cleaned up. But anyway, they don't want men involved. It's their way or the highway. I disagree with that assessment. I actually feel Vermont is a minion of corruption right now. I would not trust anybody. If my daughter was to go through that process without involving me or someone in an adult realm, I don't know. It's not going to go over too well. I don't like corrupt people. I certainly don't like drug addicts, drug dealers trying to just make money off of my kids. I certainly do not like legislation that is so outdated without safeties, and especially in this drug-infested state of Vermont, that is the worst GDP, number 1 to number 6 most taxed state in the country. And they can't figure out why no one wants to come here. Because 1, they don't have really good paying jobs with benefits. They don't train people. It's just they toss you in, sink or swim. And I don't know. I obviously, where I kind of stand. I'm not a fan of this legislation. I don't trust the Vermont legislature at all, period. Especially with such a lopsided Democrat, progressive, socialist supermajority that's completely destroyed the state of Vermont, in my view. Worst GDP. We got Leahy, Sanders, and Welch. 3 primary reasons for term limits. I mean, these guys, great. Leahy's been down there 44 plus years. Time to give someone else a chance, in my view. Sanders is one of the worst. I mean, these big utopian dreams, this $32.6 trillion Medicare / Medicaid for all plan. If you come to the state of Vermont and you want to wait in long lines to get any kind of medical care, that 2011 launch of single payer / universal, yeah, it's completely messed up several systems in the state of Vermont. I mean, you got anywhere from a 3 to 12-month waiting period for certain doctors in the state of Vermont. That's socialist medicine for you. It stinks. You can't even get a damn physical just to update so you can get keep your CDL or something without paying for it out of your pocket. That's the other thing. Talk about cheap companies that don't do anything. You got 96% of small business owners. They're so damn cheap. Yet they're always whining because no one wants to work. No, it's not that. You got too many drug addicts and alcoholics out there that can't pass a simple drug test. That's the major problem. And on top of that, you got hard workers that want to work, and then you want them to pay everything out of their own pocket. Think about it for a minute. It's not too hard to figure out, Vermont. Okay, the next one is April 23rd. This one is very interesting. A public hearing on fossil fuel infrastructure related to bills currently in the House Committee on Energy and Technology, H51, H175, and H214. There's a public hearing, April 23rd, 2019, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., Room 11, State House, Montpelier. Now, if you've heard anything about the climate change apocalypse coming our way, and I'm pretty sure you have, because we've got a bunch of indoctrinated kids that are just pitching 100% renewable. Okay? Barely graduating out of high school. Just because Bernie Sanders says the climate change apocalypse is coming, everybody's believing him. Okay. That public hearing is very important. Because if you've ever taken the time to actually read the legislation, it's going to impact several industries here in the state of Vermont. And for example, the No Carbon Tax Vermont group has been doing a lot of research, and actually in researching the private sector with solutions, because let's face it, the only way to get rid of fear from indoctrinated children is provide solutions, for one. And there's actually private sector companies that have taken the research funding and designed a rather brilliant process of reverse engineering plastics to generate heating fuel. It's called Renewology. And I got to give Priyanka Baikaya, and hopefully I enunciated her name correctly, a lot of credit out in Salt Lake City, Utah. Outstanding website. Enjoyed researching that company and her process on taking 10 tons of plastic and reverse engineering it. And it doesn't matter what plastic, which is what I liked. All those little numbers so you and I can separate, right? Put them in all these big steel bins, and then we never get to hear what happens to it afterwards. Well, this is a company that's actually reverse engineering, turning it into heating fuel. I have put posts out there with all of the landfills throughout the state of Vermont. Now, granted, some of those landfills have been built on, okay? So I'm not necessarily saying that we're going to go dig up a former school that's now sitting on a landfill or some of the ball fields. But, I mean, listen. Hi there, Don. How are you? You've got Waterbury that's capped off, okay? That's releasing methane all the time. You got East Montpelier over here doing the same thing. Basically, they're just a collection center, putting it in steel bins and then hauling it all off to other places. Now, how do you think we get these big potholes throughout Montpelier? And listen, I know I'm kind of beating up on the 18-wheelers right now, but they're pretty heavy vehicles. Now, am I against hauling? No, they create some good jobs. However, what I'm really against is this political agenda that's being bought by 7 CEOs and one former founder of Ben & Jerry's, Bill Cohen. I mean, he's made his multi-millions selling out to Unilever, and now he wants to dictate to everybody else that the climate change apocalypse is upon us. Meanwhile, there's private sector companies out there that have actually solved some of these solutions or issues, let's say. And we still have the 1960s drug-infested mindset of nuclear energy being a big issue when there's actually advanced small modular reactor plants that are small environmental footprint. Very small. They're smaller plants, a lot more efficient, providing a sustainable 20 to 30 plus years worth of energy in our energy grid. Hi there, Gregory Thyra. How are you? So May 23rd, 2019, the No Carbon Tax Vermont group, whether it's a anti-carbon tax rally or if it's a opportunity for you to learn about something that you have been fear-mongered about, I mean, let's face it, that climate change apocalypse sounds pretty scary. And you got Bernie Sanders out there begging for donations from people. He's raised $18 million, and yet he would not debate in the spring. He wouldn't debate in the summer. He wanted to make a last-minute appearance in the fall in 2018 because he knows darn well, so does Leahy and Welch, that if they ever took on someone that was off the coast of Vladivostok, Russia, when the Soviet Union collapsed in December of 91, or off the coast of China in 89 when Tiananmen Square went down, did a complete nuclear and weapons systems overhaul of a fast attack nuclear submarine at Mare Island, California in 89. The 89 quake during the World Series, many people remember that. The Oakland fire, or fires actually. Then the Oakland mudslides. Listen, there's a lot of natural disaster stuff that happens off in California. Now granted, I was out there. Don't necessarily want to live out in California. They don't get things done very well. They certainly do not care about their people. I mean, let's face it. They may have the number 1 GDP, but they've got the largest homeless population, and it's sad looking at what San Francisco has turned into since the last time I was out there. It used to be a rather fun city to visit. Doesn't sound so fun anymore. And, while we're on these subjects here coming up, these are public hearings, and this is right off the legislativevermont.gov website. So there's 2 big ones coming up. One, April 17th, 2019, the Personal Reproductive Liberties Bill. Or if you're, kind of old school, H57, Abortion Rights Bill. They've renamed it Proposal 5. Anyways, big public hearing. I still think dads should go because I'm going to tell you something. Whether we're dealing with transgenders who are purposely competing in female athletics, denying your daughter the opportunity to earn a scholarship to go to a great school, or breaking a record for being a male that doesn't want to identify as a male, that wants to compete as a female, I don't know. I still don't think that's very fair. Now, granted, they can transgender into whatever they want, I guess, as adults, but save up your own money and do it. I don't necessarily feel it's fair to be competing in female athletics and denying some outstanding female athletes that 2-time, I feel for that wrestler down in Texas, because for her to make it to the state championship 2 years in a row and be beaten by the same transgender male, I just don't feel that's fair. It's not sportsmanship. And that should be addressed. Now listen, if he wants to transgender into a female, that's his own personal business. I just don't feel it's fair. It almost reminds me of the steroid era in baseball. That was a big deal. I mean, and I'm not, yes, I am beating up on it. If you're going to use steroids, you're going to use some kind of alternative rather than just batting natural and knocking it out of the park to break a home run record. I mean, there should be some kind of little asterisk or something. That's just my point, my opinion. I don't know. I don't feel it's fair. But those are two very important public hearings. The other public hearing is about fossil fuels. And if you read through that bill, it's very interesting. It's the H51, H175, and H214. There's a public hearing, April 23rd, 2019, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., room 11, State House, Montpelier. The House Committee on Energy and Technology, which is almost an oxymoron here in Vermont, because they're still decades behind. When you got DSL trying to be rebranded and resold as broadband, that's pretty bad. Now we're talking like 80s technology, okay? And that's a fun little jab, but whatever. That fossil fuel public hearing is going to be pretty important, because when I read through some of the bills, I mean, they're talking about completely banning. I mean, we're a very rural state, for one. And two, when they're unwilling to listen to a private sector solution like Renewlogy, which reverse engineers plastic, any plastic, into either, you take 10 tons of plastic, she's able to reverse engineer it into 2,500 gallons worth of diesel, or natural gas, or methane. Those are heating fuels. I mean, I don't see anybody tapping off of the methane coming out of Waterbury. That wouldn't be a bad idea right now, but anyway. May 23rd, 2019, the No Carbon Tax Vermont group, several professionals that have actually earned awards in several industries providing solutions or designing technology that's generated multi-billions worth of dollars so they can go and retire and subsidize their own retirements. Meanwhile, they're taxing the living heck out of anything of our future, and we gotta change that model, because Vermont stinks right now. I apologize. I'm a native Vermonter. I love this little state, but when you're number 50 GDP, rock dead last. I don't like being last. I don't know. Kicks up my competitive side, I guess. And then on top of that, you're number 1 most taxed, number 1 to number 6, depending which category you want to break it down. We're number 1. We are anti-senior. We dislike our older generation. I mean, granted, they got to enjoy a lot of the best years of Vermont, but man, talk about an unfriendly state towards our grandparents. And, I'd like to kind of keep them around. It's bad enough they're all banged up, some of them. Like to, keep them around as long as we can. I mean, dang. What are your thoughts on that? So, April 23rd, 2019, the fossil fuel infrastructure related bills. And when I was reading through some of these bills, it's interesting, to say the least. I think we've offered some outstanding solutions of present technology that a lot of Vermonters were completely unaware of, or technologies that the 7 CEOs that have created some market share here in the state of Vermont with that 100 renewable energy approach. Hello.
Hey, Ed.
Yes.
This is on clear.
Oh, on clear.
Yeah, once you had invited your mom and dad up for dinner,
Yeah. I think they left. I can go up and check for you.
I tried calling a couple times and I haven't gotten an answer.
Yeah, because see, I'm downstairs. I couldn't hear the phone ringing, and I'm pretty sure if they're not answering the phone, they've already left.
Because I tried about 15 minutes ago, and they should have been here by now. I
Well,
wanted to make sure everything was okay.
listen, Aunt Claire, they drive a lot slower these days. No offense. That's a little fun ribbit. They drive a lot slow. Yeah, they try to avoid every little pothole on the way, so they'll get there eventually.
No? Hold on for 'em.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're on their way.
Just driving in now.
Oh, see, what did I tell you? They drive a lot slower these. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye bye now.
Bye-bye.
Sorry about that. Family worried about family, driving a little slower, getting to a spot where they're supposed to be, I guess. And oh, gee, I should be careful because that's probably going to really upset the parentals. But that was out a little bit of fun. Anyway, these public hearings are pretty important. They're definitely going to impact just trying to conduct business in the state of Vermont. And I don't know about you guys, but the climate change apocalypse thing, it's getting pretty old. And the Green New Deal, the $93 trillion energy makeover, doesn't sound very sustainable. And the $32.6 trillion Medicare/Medicaid for all plan. Listen, right now Vermont is a complete mess because of the single payer and the universal launch from 2011. And any American out there in any other state that's sending money to Bernie Sanders or any of the socialists that are jumping on that bandwagon, to be quite honest with you, I'm giving you the warning. You heard it. If you, just come up here. Try to get access. Try to set up an appointment without your paperwork. You're going to love it. It's going to take forever. It is the Canadian model. Rebranded. Redisguised. And as much as I love Vermont, it shouldn't be that way. We can fix these things with some really kind of common sense solutions. The Vermont Health Connect was a $400 million boondoggle for just a front-end website. That they're still shuffling paperwork on the back side. There's no security, no cybersecurity, period. Come on. All right. So those are some big public hearings. Just for the ending of the show, or the ending of this little broadcast, April 17th, 2019, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., the abortion rights bill, H57. Or Proposal 5 is the way they're rewriting it up, probably to confuse people. 5 p.m. to 7, if you're a dad or a mom and you like little kids, kind of like babies, you like teaching them baseball and how to become future super whatevers, I'd suggest you go. Because Vermont is dead, dying, decaying because of it's all their way or the highway. And I don't really feel it should be written. It should be written with some safeties in there. Go to the public hearing. Let your voice be heard on that. April 23rd, 2019. Now listen, that's my dad's birthday. I do still plan on showing up, depending on what the family plans are. I mean, he is getting up there. I like celebrating for as long as I got him. He's slightly banged up. I mean, dang, he gave 50 plus years in the granite industry, so he's slightly, he's all banged up, really. Those damn rocks are heavy, especially when they fall on you. Kind of mess up your legs and stuff. But anyway, April 23rd, 2019, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the H51, H175, and H214. The fossil fuel stuff, or the carbon tax initiatives, or the climate change apocalypse stuff. However you want to have fun with it. Because personally, I think it's a lot about, because it's basically talking about fossil fuel infrastructure. So whether it's like the climate change apocalypse infrastructure bill on how to completely anti-fuel something, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's a lot of fun too. But that's another big important public hearing, April 23rd, the fossil fuel infrastructure. Anybody that is either hauling fuel, selling fuel. There should be several business owners down there. I mean, if they're not, that's pretty sad, because they do create a lot of good jobs. They still heat a lot of our homes. We still need it. We haven't quite transitioned well. I mean, I know they're pushing the 100% renewable only, but there's a lot of taxes they're talking about, and we are already number one in several categories in that area, and we're rock dead last in all of the good categories these days. We are a socialist state, a failed socialist state at that. Rock dead last, number 50. Good old Bernie Sanders with his single-payer, universal, whatever, blew the hell out of our healthcare systems. Now we've got one of the worst-performing healthcare systems, or worst-performing states, between two so-called top-tier medical communities, between UVM and Dartmouth. Man, that really stinks. Have a great weekend.